I get more out of helping people than I ever did raising that Stanley Cup. I don't want my name attached to hockey. I want it to be, my legacy, what I leave behind, the footprint that I leave behind, the foundation leaves behind. You know, we have one life to live. Let's make it the best. And when I'm helping people, that's when I feel the best.
Welcome to another episode of the Hey Where'd You Go podcast. I'm your host, Collin Kushner, and my next guest is 2010 Stanley Cup champion defenseman. He was playing for the Blackhawks, which as a Wings guy, we're not going to hold that against him. He's Brent Sopel. Brent, how's it going, man?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good, dude. Super stoked to have you on the podcast. I appreciate you taking the time, and there's no bad blood because I like the Wings and you play for the Hawks, right? Are we good?
Yeah, we're all set. Life after hockey.
Awesome, man. I just wanted to get that one out of the way because I know that could sometimes be the elephant in the room. Brent, you have a fantastic story, and I'm really excited to dive into it. Here on the Hey Where'd You Go pod, I always like to start from the very beginning. And you grew up on a farm in rural Saskatchewan. What was that like? I'm a California guy, so you got to describe what was that like?
Yeah, I spent half the time in the city and half the time on the farm, and I miss my farm. You take me off the farm, but you can't take the farm out of me. And it's just the open air. And you California people, too many people. There's stars up there. If you guys would take a look and get away from the lights, it was just it's the farm made me who I am. We had, when I grew up, we had cows and chickens and the whole 9 yards, and we had grain. We had it all, and it's where you got one thing to do. You got to work. Mother Nature controls what you do on a farm, but there's always work to be done. And it made me who I am today, and I love it. It's the best place going out there. It's just peaceful. At night, completely dark. You can just hear animals, and like I said, I truly miss it big time.
I read a story about you pushing a tractor up a hill, and then you were holding a brick as well in your other arm, which I have no clue how you did. And then you would jump in as it was going down the hill to kind of get the vibe like you were actually driving it.
Yeah, I had a little rock that sat on the deck of the tractor, and I used the treads and pushed it up. And I don't know how many, hundreds and hundreds of times. It was a little tractor that was on the farm, and I love that tractor. And I ended up restoring it and driving around the Stanley Cup. I still have it. That's my pride and joy. But I wasn't wasn't allowed to drive it without by myself at that age. So I was going to take advantage. I wouldn't, I was driving it, but it wasn't running. So it was okay. I spent many hours pushing that thing up there. And I guess that was my workout.
Was that the early Brent Sopel hockey training off ice regimen?
As much as training, it was fun. I any work to me on the farm wasn't work. It was fun. I loved it. And I guess, it did help out with with the legs, and maybe that's why I'm such a slow skater.
Dude, you made it to the NHL. I know. I mean, you could say slow skater, this, that, or the other, but you ended up going to the NHL. But before we get to that, I know you're from Canada, but who introduced you to the game of hockey? Was there anybody in particular?
Well, obviously in Canada, everybody thinks it's the national sport, but it's not. It's lacrosse. But growing up in Saskatchewan, minus, I guess it gets, for you Californians, I think it got up to minus 50 Fahrenheit this year. So not too bad, but there's in the wintertime, that's it. A lot of the outdoor rinks where I grew up in Saskatchewan are at school. So on recess, you're out there, and it's just who you are. I was skating at the age of 2, just because I loved it. It was everywhere you turn. It started snowing in September. There wasn't a Halloween without snow, 2 feet of snow back growing up. So that's just who we are as, Saskatchewan, rinks everywhere. And I just started 2 years old, and then my dad would make me a little rink in the backyard, and it just became my life.
Was that the dream from a young age to dedicate yourself to the game of ice hockey, and for that to end up blossoming into a 12-year NHL career?
Every kid in Canada's won the Stanley Cup millions of times in the outdoor rink, and I absolutely loved it. I loved it, but there's also it's an escape for me. So there's a few things that were going on there. There's you never think that you're going to make it because it's less than 1% ever do. It's a small margin. I don't even know. There was never a time where I ever thought I was going to make it. Was I better than a lot of them? Yeah, but that still doesn't mean you were going to make it. Still, to be one of the 1%, less than the 1% in the world, that's a small number. But I just, it was an escape, and I loved it.
You said hockey was an escape for you, and I know school wasn't the easiest growing up. Can you kind of talk about those struggles that you had in school? And I think at one point you even said people said you were stupid. When we're going to dive into it, that's clearly not the case by any means.
Yeah, it's for 8 hours a day. I hated life. You talk to everybody. Trying to find a job that you love. It's not. It's not a job. But how many? Every time you go there for 8 hours, you just want to try and fit in as a kid, and you look to your left and right, and you can't fit in by doing the simplest things. So it was a nightmare. I hated every second of it. I hated going there. I hated everything to do with it. And that's where the escape was when I was on that rink. I didn't think about it. I didn't have to worry about reading that sentence or that math problem. It was just, I cleared my mind, and that was my escape, was being on the ice.
I have to say that really resonates with me, Brent, because growing up, even in Southern California, hockey was that one place, especially as a goalie, where I felt like I was on my own little island. And that rink was kind of the barrier between, me and the rest of life. Cause I also had some struggles in school. And, when you're coming home every day and your paper is just covered in red ink, it's not a good feeling. And the hockey was the only place for me personally where I was like, you know what? Like I was able to get away from it.
And everybody's got to have that outlet. Is it hockey? Is it baseball? Is it music? Whatever that is. You talk about learning disorders. You're talking about struggling. Dyslexia is 1 in 5. So you're talking about 20% of the population. Is struggling. I think 80% of the people don't get diagnosed by the time they leave school. It's and you think you're told you're dumb and stupid and lazy, and you think that, and you have no self-esteem for 8 hours, and you walk out to like you said, red ink with more homework because you couldn't get it done. It's a nightmare.
Did anybody, including yourself, ever question or ever think, maybe there is, maybe I just learned differently? I mean, I know growing up in Canada, during the time that you did, I know things were different than they are now.
It's different. They are now. They're still not different. you know, very few people, I still say less than 20% of the world know what dyslexia is and what goes on. So I think the fact that I was an athlete, playing hockey and good at it, they just correlated with me being dumb. So there was no, I think maybe it's this, the word, I've never heard the word dyslexia until I was diagnosed. So it's not like it was a word, it's not a word that's thrown around now. Go back 30 years ago, I never heard it. So, I don't, I was tested in grade 8, I had a grade 4 reading level, but that was it. No further than that. Just, basically the label was put on me very early, dumb, and my mom did most of my homework. I got a lot of tests, pass, 50% was passing in high school. And I got pretty much every class I got a 50.
During this time, people are saying dumb athlete, dumb hockey player. And that is essentially being cemented in your mind because no one else is coming in and saying, wait a second, he learns differently. So you're excelling on the ice, but then for 8 hours a day, you're having this mantra just hammered into your head over and over and over again.
Yeah. Still to this day, I think I'm dumb. So I got people that tell me that, you might be the smartest person I've ever met. And I don't believe them. Not one word. Because something gets cemented, you tell somebody something long enough, they're going to start believing that. And even though where I'm at and what I've done, and I still think I'm dumb, and I think that's going to live with me for the rest of my life.
Brent, how do we change that? Because I resonate that I still feel the same way sometimes. There are moments throughout my day where, let's face it, people make mistakes. It's human, and I'll make a mistake, and then I'll immediately retreat back to 7-year-old Collin and just be like, oh, you're an idiot or you're stupid. And it's crazy as a 30-year-old that still resonates today. How do we change that mantra for people like us?
That's, obviously the foundation and why I've done like, my story's not about me. It's about every kid out there struggling. It's trying to bring some recognition to what it is. So, nobody knows what dyslexia was 30 years ago. They still don't. It's trying to bring something to the forefront. Everybody knows what autism is. That's 1 in 65 and not hereditary. So cancer is 1 in 2, not all hereditary. Next is dyslexia at 1 in 5 and hereditary. So it's the second most common thing out there. I'm just telling my story, and it's allowing me to be on here. I appreciate it. Just to talk about it. Maybe, if it can resonate with one person. The earlier you find out you have cancer, stage 1 as they call it, the better off you are. Same thing. If we would have known at 2 years old or 4 years old or grade 2, I wouldn't have the scars that I have now. Like, I got my daughter tested. She got diagnosed at grade 2. She's in college now, doing great. She's got scars, no question. We all do. That's life. But I've got scars that are really open and they'll never close because I went 32 years of that pain and suffering. So if we can stop that earlier, if we can catch it 10 years earlier, 5 years earlier, whatever that is, the world's going to be better off.
It's about breaking that cycle. And it's hard to do. Like you just said it, Brent, 32 years of that same mantra being hammered and hammered and hammered. It's become habitual now, knowing, that it's dyslexia. Now it's breaking that. But I think people forget to realize that if you do something 32 years in a row as a hockey player, you're going to be pretty damn good. And to break out of that, you have to ground yourself to what it is at the end of the day. And so what is dyslexia and dysgraphia for people that have no clue?
Well, the one thing, if you say dyslexia, everybody thinks it's just flipping your B's and D's. There's about 50 other things that go along with it. And the first thing is no self-esteem. That's what I talk about. I don't care about reading and writing. That's the number one thing. I don't care. You could be a rocket scientist, but if you don't have self-esteem, you got nothing. And that's all I worry about. And kids struggling at classrooms, can't get this problem, can't get it, gets laughed at. That's the biggest thing. And that's where hockey was, trying to boost my self-esteem. So is there flipping your B's and D's? Yes. Is there flipping your numbers sometimes? Yes. If there's a word that doesn't spell and sound the same, I won't get it. Reading comprehension, goes on there. Some dyslexics don't know their lefts from their rights. Some of the most severe dyslexics will never read a day in their life. So dyslexia is the reading portion. Dysgraphia is the writing portion, and decalculate is the math portion. So you could have one of the three. You could have 2 of the 3. You could have all 3, and it's hereditary. So I passed it to my daughter, and chances of her passing it to her kids. So this is something that doesn't just stop. It's around. It's not going anywhere. It's hereditary. It's passed down. Not like autism, where it isn't hereditary.
You hit on something, the self-esteem portion. I think I feel like people immediately go to the writing and the reading portion, and the self-esteem. You're right. If you don't have self-esteem, there is no foundation at all. How have you been able to help kids realize that the self-esteem is just as important as the other aspects?
Well, obviously, a lot of them get excited if they're hockey players that they can relate, and that's why I put it out there. I just talk to them about they can do it. We just learn differently. There's some dyslexics out there saying that dyslexia is a gift. You're right, but stop lying. Before you get there, there's a lot of pain. So don't give me the gift. The gift comes if you can find a way to get through the pain and get to understand that. And so kids, I talk to parents all the time and telling them how to handle their dyslexic. So for example, what if dad passed on the dyslexia to the son or daughter? While mom's at home with the kids, she has absolutely no idea what is going on in his brain. So then she's struggling on how to handle him and what to say to him. So as a non-dyslexic, and this is what's the problem, part of the school system, you got the superintendents, you got all these board directors are, you're not dyslexic, so don't tell me what to do. You have no idea what goes on in my head. It's just like, it's that, that's the hardest portion is whenever that phone call comes, it's bridging that conversation. It's self-esteem. We have a hard time keeping friends because people think we're weird because we don't see that world that way. Um, there's a lot more that goes into it. So it's just having that conversation. Each call is a little bit different, but it's same. The same thing is they're struggling. The suicide rate, 67% are addicted to drugs and alcohol. Suicides of teens have tripled in the last 10 years, and 90% of the suicide notes left are dyslexic.
Hockey was your outlet, and going back to the hockey portion, because that was important for you at the time. You had a ton of success growing up. You ended up getting drafted by the Vancouver Canucks in 1995. What do you remember the most about the day you got drafted?
It's just the NHL draft just passed, and it was in Edmonton, so a lot of my family could come down. It was about a 5-hour drive from where I grew up. So as a kid, you play hockey, you go to junior, you hope to get drafted, and I was there, and it was another great milestone, in my life. I've always been the underdog, obviously the slowest skater. Can you make it? Can you get that next level? Like I said, there wasn't ever a day where I thought I was going to make it. And to put on the jersey, I was excited to get drafted. I was upset I got drafted so late, but it was just another motivation for me, another prove them wrong, scenario where kind of where I had to be my whole life.
During that time, did that put the other stuff kind of on the back burner and put yourself at ease, saying, I'm having so much success playing this sport? Did that kind of alleviate some of the outside of hockey stress?
That pain's always was there and always will be, will always be there. And that hockey was my only focus. So the other part of the world didn't exist. I blocked it out. And like I said, I graduated high school and got drafted in the same week. My education probably doesn't, take me past grade 8. The teachers passed me. I didn't deserve to pass. I didn't know what, English final, get a 60 on it. I didn't write a word on the paper. So hockey, I just focused on hockey and that was it, and nothing else in the world. I was just the only thing I could dive into, and it was the only thing that saved my life.
You had a fantastic 12-year career: Canucks, Kings, Canadiens, Thrashers, the Blackhawks, where you won the Stanley Cup in 2010. And I love putting the emphasis on that. What a great team. Brent Seabrook, Duncan Keith, Patty Kane, Jonathan Toews. What do you remember the most about that season?
That was obviously pretty special. The fact that I could say my name is on that Stanley Cup for, I think it's a vision, be able to see it for 60 years before it's put in the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's pretty cool for my family. Less than 1% ever make it to the NHL, then the less of that makes, you ever get to win it. So it was a pretty cool year. We ended up starting the season in Europe, but it was a lot of stress for me. Joel Quenneville tried to throw me in the minors. They tried to push me into the minors next year. The year before, they wanted to bury me. Stan Bowman wanted to bury me. I had to go back and remake the team. So I had to go back and prove myself, and it was a battle every year, every game for me, and sacrifice my body every day for that end goal. But it was a very close team. It's probably the closest team I've ever been part of.
That moment where you hoisted the cup, you had Lord Stanley's cup in your hands, and you pushed it up in the air. Was there calm and quiet up here?
No, the exact opposite. Obviously excited on the outside. Still hating life in the inside.
And no one knew.
No one knew. I'm almost 5 years sober. It took me almost dying with the drugs and alcohol I was doing to get sober, to start figuring out what all that noise meant. I you talk to any of my teammates, they're going to tell you they thought I was completely out of my mind, insane. Things I did, my rituals, which now I can look back, that was the glue that was holding my life together because of my dyslexia. I didn't find out till I was 32, so almost at the end of my career. But I had to get sober to see what that was, to relearn and relove myself, because I didn't.
What were those rituals?
Drive down the street, had to, same music over, had to turn at this time, and had to stop at this set of lights, and put this shoe on and this skate on this way, and stand up at this time and dance around at this time. And, I look back, the term we always use, mental midget, always, make or break it in any sport is a mental side of things. And guys, like, it was crazy what I did, but I didn't know what I was doing and why, but I knew if I didn't do one thing out of that ritual, I was done. Might as well not have played. I played, but it messed me up.
And that was a story that was created kind of going back to what was really going on inside.
And to be honest, I didn't even know what was going on. It was the fear. It was everything. I always say it's like a blender. Everything was in a blender for me, until the blender stopped spinning. Once I got sober and started doing some of that work, that I could look back and put two and two together and understand what all that meant.
And that's what I want listeners to know, Brent, is that you could be at the top of your game in the NHL, NFL, NBA, winning championships, tons of cash, living this great life. But what people don't see is what's happening internally. And so when I asked you about you're hoisting that cup, was there quiet and just calm? And you said no. I mean, I think that's something it's important for people to know, especially now with, I think athletes are more open about their stories and the struggles, because at the end of the day, like I always tell people we put our shoes and pants on the same way. I mean, I tried jumping into my pants. It didn't work.
I said the same thing. I said, we all put our pants on the same way, except for women jump off the bed to get in their Lululemons.
It's, you know what though? It's the truth. And in some ways it's kind of dehumanizing. Like, yes, like, do we tend to put athletes on pedestals 100%? But I think,
I don't mean to cut you off there before we go further. Athletes put themselves there. Some of these Fortune 500 guys, these CEOs, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Elon Musk, you're the most disgusting man in the world. I can't stand these guys. Are gutless. They're a piece of shit. You got all this money. Take your rocket and put it away. How about you help people that are out there sick, that are hungry? Be a man. No, you're some of the selfish people. So I think, they put themselves there. Athletes put themselves there. No, again, for money and for fame. Yes, we're on TV, great, but we all put our pants on the same way. Just be real. Just be truthful. And that's the biggest problem here is, tell it the way it is. And that's what I do about myself, the foundation. And I tell it what it is. I think some of the words that I get used for my documentary that's on YouTube, Here to Change the World, it's raw, because that's my life.
And being that open is gonna give a whole bunch of people, young people, older people, middle-aged people, perspective that it's okay. Like if something's going on, it's okay to be open and honest about it.
And that's life's tough. Just call it the way it is. And the more we do that, don't sugarcoat it. Because guess what? We don't get, somebody down that's struggling. There's no sugarcoat there. Just be real and be honest. And that's a lot of the athletes, a lot of celebrities. They'll tell half a story. That half of the story make it look glam and glorious. You're missing the whole point. Tell the real part, and then that will resonate, with more people.
That's the key. Because if you give like 70% or 60%, I mean, here's a perfect example, Brent. When my dad passed away in my early 20s, I tried to cover it up, thinking I was almost embarrassed because I didn't want people to feel bad, because I felt bad on the inside. But I realize now 10 years later that, I mean, and I could still change things. If I'm open and you're just honest about it, maybe you will connect with somebody, some of the unlikeliest people.
Oh, and that's, I think what you just, you hit it is, just be honest. You attract what you give off. So if you're hiding things inside and you're not in a good place, I always say, the girl in high school, I always date the bad boy. Well, because that's what you give off. And and that's where you are. So, if you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, that's who you're going to be. If you're sober like myself, and you attract those people, because that's what you give off. And for yourself, and you're protecting, you're protecting. You didn't want to worry about anybody else. But at the end of the day, there's only one person in the world that you can control. That's yourself. You can't control what everybody says or does. You can't. And the quicker we all worry about learn that, the better it is. Oh, so and so said this. I couldn't control it. I can only control how I react.
And that goes back to the self-esteem that we talked about earlier. It all cycles back, dude.
Yeah. It's, obviously being an athlete and being in a limelight, and articles written on how much I sucked and this and that and here my whole life, and it's in perspective. I can control myself. If somebody calls me, an asshole, what did they do? They actually just, said words. I attached the feelings to it.
I think the difficult part is not attaching, and it kind of goes back to the mantra of you're growing up and people are calling you stupid. No, we just learned differently. But if you take that and you take that onto yourself, you start manifesting it and believing it.
Well, 100%. And that's, you can't change the past. You can't change the future. You can only change now. We might, I'm not planning what I'm doing next week. I might be dead. That's not morbid. That's the truth. So the more we can stay present and live for the moment, the better our life's going to be.
How has being present today, Brent, sober and with the Brent Sopel Foundation and helping others, how has that helped center you?
It's, first off, I found, my purpose, which is helping anybody I can and in every which way. If we give, we're eventually going to get more back. And everybody talks about money, and money doesn't buy happiness. If your heart is full, I get more out of helping people than I ever did raising that Stanley Cup. And to be honest, I don't talk about the Stanley Cup. It's gotten me meetings to build the foundation, but I don't want my name attached to hockey. I want it to be, my legacy, what I leave behind, the footprint that I leave behind, the foundation leaves behind. We have one life to live. Let's make it the best. And when I'm helping people, that's when I feel the best.
Did you ever think during your playing career that you would ever look back and think that hoisting the Stanley Cup wouldn't matter, I guess, in a way?
It's, everybody talks about, the 20s this, the 30s this, the 40s this. It's, I'm 44, brains, I always say my body's 64, brain 74 from hockey. And hopefully my handicap sticker shows up soon. But, I lived 10 lives already, what I've gone through, where I've been, lived around the world, lived in Russia, what I did to myself. It's great. I feel great to be where I am today, to be present, to understand who I am and understand what I need and what I can do, and able to read people and understand things more. So, when my life was a blender, you couldn't catch a thing. Now I can sit and be present and absorb whatever needs to be absorbed. Now I can help, different people at many different times at the same time, because I'm present. I am here. I'm not, my head's not over here, and my body's over there.
Being present is the most important thing, and mindfulness. And I try and practice it every single day. I'll be
not easy, let me tell you.
No, dude, it's super difficult, especially like you're on a walk, right, in the sun. I mean, you live in Florida, I live in California. We live in two of the most beautiful places that you possibly can in the States. I'll be on a walk and the sun's hitting me, but I'm worrying about a meeting 4 hours later. And then I'll have to be like, hey, whoa, wait a second, dude. Like, let's take a deep breath. That's 4 hours from now and relax.
just simplifying life. I always say, I thank God for waking up. People are like, what do you mean? I think I heard the stat like 2 million people don't wake up. So the simplest things are the ones that, when you're talking, baseball, would you rather have 60 home runs or 3,000 hits? Those little achievements, they pile up on the day and help that self-esteem and that individual a lot quicker than the home runs. Oh, I'm trying to make this thing and make $10 million. No, just walk your way up the stairs. It's supposed to happen. It's going to happen.
It's not, life is not black and white. I've lived a pretty black and white life. You're either in or you're out. You either like me or you don't like me. And I was chatting with somebody about that. They're like, Collin, that is ruthless. And it is, because you're ignoring. I like to wake up in the morning and meditate for 10 minutes. That's a win. I like to have a juice every morning. That's a win. I like to be showered, work out, everything before my first meeting. Those are all wins. But if you're living this black and white, you're either in or you're out lifestyle, you're forgetting about all the wins along the way.
Well, the world's, there's a lot of, everybody lives in fear, and, it's not addressing, what's going on that we talk about, the mental health. And, like you said, when your dad died, you kept it inside. You've got people that, I always say, you can have a few close friends, 2 or 3, and that's it, because life's too busy. So if you're a person with, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 friends, they're not friends. And you're in a worse place than you ever imagined, in my mind, because there's no time for that. It takes time to take care of yourself. It takes time to be a good friend. It takes time for work to dive in. And if you had kids on top of it, there's not enough time in the day to have 20 friends. And it's funny, everybody's like, oh, how you doing? How your kids? Don't ask me, because you don't care. Truthfully, that's, they're not doing it because they care. So it's being, for me, it's just being real.
Being real is something that it's difficult to do because of social norms, right? I think in a way, like if you go out with somebody, right, and they say, hey, how's your family doing? And then you say, hey, like, don't ask because you don't care. I mean,
it's, again, because you have a couple close friends, but most people don't care. It's just a conversation, fluffer, I call it. So who does. And, so it's, and the other thing I would, everybody's like, oh, it's, it's not norm, or there's no such thing as norm. It's what works for you. What works for your family, your marriage, or, parenting your kid. It's, God made each one of us different. So what's right and good for me, Colin's not for you. So why are we trying to compare ourselves or put ourselves, up in there? And, oh yeah, I need to be married and have kids by 32. Why? Who said? This or that, I should be doing this. No, it's, and I've learned a lot of that with my life. I've lived around the world, and athletes, and here, there, and everywhere, and public eye, and alcohol. Like, I've learned that I'm on my island by myself, because I'm different. All right, we're all different. Each and every one of us are.
Yes. And that's the key. Some people learn different. That's okay. Some people take, life is not this linear trajectory where you just shoot. At least I'm kind of like you, dude, as a TV broadcaster. I've lived all over. You're moving and you're trying this and you're trying that, and people are looking at you like, what the hell are you doing? It's I'm living my life to figure out what works for me, and the only way to know is to go do.
And people always say, I had somebody ask me on a podcast, what would you tell your younger self? I said nothing. She's like, what? Nothing, because I've had to go through every one of these lessons to get here today.
That's powerful, Brent. That is very powerful. If someone gives you a golden ticket, says you can go back in time and change something, you think about how many people would say, yeah, I'd go back and do that. And that's powerful, man.
For myself, I wouldn't. I've had to go through all this pain to be here to having this conversation with you. And I'm not having this conversation for me. I'm having this conversation for who might hear this. So if I didn't go through all that, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So everything happens for a reason. I always say God passes his messages, not in nice ways. Somebody die or there's a message in there. If you try to pass us a message when things are rosy, guess what? We're not going to see it.
It's about taking those moments, whether they're good or bad or just whatever, and being in them. But also it's about learning and helping, I guess, at the end of the day. If you take any situation that life throws at you, good or bad, okay, you need to deal with it in a healthy way, and then maybe you can help somebody along the way.
Obviously, I had a great career, 18 years pro, over 1,000 game, won a Stanley Cup. But there's one thing in this world that we're never an expert at, never perfect at, and that's ourselves. Because something new comes up every day, a new meeting, a new person, a new presentation that you have to look back on and evaluate. That's where that self-evaluation really comes into play. Because I'm a year older, I'm a day older, my body hurts more. We constantly change, so we have to constantly improve.
I wanted to ask you this from your personal experiences in the NHL. How do you feel about the mentality of as long as you show up and do your job, nobody asks any questions?
You've got to be okay with who you are for that statement to make any sense. When I talk to people, I say, when we work together, I counsel a lot of people. I said, I want you to look in the mirror, tell yourself I love you, know it, believe it, and feel it. So back to that statement, same kind of thing. You've got to be able to be where I am and to be able to talk about it and be okay with it. So for that statement to mean anything, that you as an individual have to be secure. And majority of the world isn't. That's why statements like that happen in most companies. Because from the top down, they're not okay with who they are. And to be open and honest and make that statement mean something.
I'll be honest with you, Brent, your story and another guy I had on the podcast, Carrick Felix, he played in the NBA. Hearing you guys be open about your struggles in school has helped me be more open because, like I said before, I'm a 30-year-old man, but I still am self-conscious about those. I still remember those math sheets. Math and science, not my thing, dude. Writing and being creative, yes. Math and science,
Well, and I always say nothing in school was my way. Like math, reading, everybody's like, "Oh, art, I hated it. My stickman, it just, school in itself, and it got to a tipping point where there was nothing fun, because I struggled the whole time. And that's why, when I'm telling the story again is, I'm glad that it's helping you. It's okay. It's who we are. And that's why, I had started the foundation. That's why I do what I do. So more people can hear about it, and know that they're okay. And that's, we just learn differently, no big deal, because if you break it down, I think about 80% of us have something. Is it reader comprehension? Is that ADD? Is it whatever that is? 80%. That's a huge number in my mind.
it kind of goes back to you were saying that we're all unique in our own ways. It can go back to your life trajectory. Yeah, some people are married and have kids by 30. Some people don't. And some people learn this way and some people learn that way. I mean, I'm a visual learner. The auditory stuff, I'm going to need to listen to it 30 times.
And that's the key, and that's the key is trying to get people to know how they learn. Obviously I'm a visual, the same as you, and people don't really know what those words mean, and it's tough to talk about. I need this or this because you don't know. So I think school is all about money. They don't care. It's about money, and that's why it's all cookie cutter. And but it's just being okay with who you are. It's I'm married by 32. No, it doesn't matter. Again, I need this job, or I got to do this, or why can't I be this doctor? No, everybody has a path. Every happens for a reason. I guess you weren't supposed to be a doctor, or you weren't supposed to be here. So just make the best of where you are.
It's well said. Very, very well said. And that's why, again, I love what you're doing with the Brent Sopel Foundation, getting the word out, helping kids, helping hockey players. And I remember I was reading some articles, and it was so cool just to see these kids or these parents reach out to you. I mean, you're an NHL, a 12-year NHL vet, the Stanley Cup, and that holds a lot of weight when you're a kid and you need someone to look up to, man.
Yeah, and that's, there's two. I'm glad they have somebody to look up to. I'm really the only one in the world telling the dyslexia world story. Richard Branson, you're an embarrassment. Again, you guys millions of dollars. If you want to do something, people will talk about it surfacely, but they're not going to talk about it. And I'm glad the kids could look up to me and and look at the NHL status and the one to Stanley Cup. Great, but I'm a normal man. And that's why I do what I do is it is not for me, it's for them.
After one's athletic career concludes, how do you find purpose?
It was the hardest time in my life, and all four major sports, guys that come back from the Army, military, Navy, all we've done for whatever 20 years, 30 years, 40 years is that. And I always say I entered the real world at 40 and it kicked me in the ass. I got divorced. Nobody would hire me. I had a learning disorder, didn't have that work experience, didn't have the education. So still to this day, I haven't had a salary since I left hockey. And the one thing that people never understood, I was told where to be and when to be from the time I was born until I was almost 40. School, recess, time to go, go to school, get up, hockey games. You lose that purpose of time. I was a train wreck.
When you paint the picture like that, it makes sense when you're told, because you're right, with hockey, it's very regimented. Here, games at 7:30, practice, morning skate at 8, go home after, come back at this time. It's literally boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. When you go to the military, you're playing football, you're playing, because we don't live in the real world when we're doing that. So to enter the real world, the average career in hockey is 5 years. I played 18 because I played in fear. So try coming to the real world at 40 with no education, no work experience, really struggling, and going out there. And it's the hardest thing, scariest thing, and it kicked me in the ass for many years.
How could that not be scary? You're stripping away everything that's been your life, and then they're like, okay, here you go.
And the only thing I was, it's the only thing I was good at. And that's only place I got my self-esteem was hockey. And that still wasn't there, because I struggled at everything else. So you took away my one thing I was good at.
Brent, I have to tell you again, I think it's so cool how you're helping with the Brent Sopel Foundation. And that's not the only way that you're helping out. You're helping out with your everyday job as the president of Horizon Energy Consultants. How'd you get involved in? And again, I want you to tell people how you're helping hockey players.
You talk about I wouldn't change my past. Well, the reason I'm here having this conversation about Horizon Energy Consultants is because of being dyslexic. So you go to my documentary, there's two kids on there, and there's one of the older kids, Cade. Him and I have been working together for a couple of years together. He plays hockey in the dyslexia side of things. And, I moved down to Florida, and I had a company. I was going to work for a solar company. Found out they lied to me, got me down here, tried to screw me over. Cancel that contract, and then I was struggling. I ended up spending 6 or 8 weeks in bed. Now what am I going to do? I talked to Cade. He's like, well, why don't you talk to my best friend, Brock? And Brock's Canadian, and he's got a solar company. So talked to Brock, and here we are today. So Brock, started the company. We were in California and Arizona. I think we're the 8th largest in California. And he, called me up and said, "Do you want to be part of it?" And now I'm running Texas and Florida, going to open up Illinois, and here we are. So go back to if you would change something that in your past. Well, most people would change what caused the pain. Well, here I am. That pain has got me here and allowing me to have this solar company. We can help every single homeowner in the United States, which is, we're not selling Tupperware knives. we're doing a good deed, we can save people, we're helping people. There's that helping part again. You know, and I've only hired retired hockey players here in Florida. You know, we just talked about how hard it was leaving the game. None of us know how to do a resume, how to do, job experience, and where do we work, how do we do it? You know, so I've only hired retired hockey players so far here in Florida. You know, ESPN did an article on us, and I'm going to continue to do that. You know, I'll help anybody. You know, we run in those 5 states. Anybody needs work, or anybody needs solar. You mentioned this podcast, and I'll give you the discount. But it's I love helping people, and that's where I am every day. Every homeowner, every person I talk to, the foundation I see it as helping.
Isn't it pretty cool, Brent, how you've been able to mesh the struggles in school? You've meshed it with hockey, and one was used to cover up the other, but now both are stripped away, and now you've just put them together.
If you do the work and you let it all work out the way it's supposed to, you take a look at my struggles. There's my dyslexia, all my pain, to me counseling a kid who's part of my documentary, to me, being a part owner in one of the largest solar companies in the United States. Like, it's all works out how it's supposed to, if you just sit with it and be okay with it. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have changed this. Oh, do this, run around 100 miles. Guess what? Look where it brought me.
Brought you exactly where you're supposed to be. And this is something that really resonated with me. Brock said in an article, you don't have to feel like you have to create a new identity with your hockey player mentality.
These guys come here, I know what they're going through. Again, through my foundation, through who I am, there isn't much I haven't gone through. So I can relate with these guys. Walking up to a door, knocking on a door. Pretty scary when all you used to do is dump the puck in the corner and go and hit somebody. Because that's all they know. So it's teaching them and be able to, they have an amazing skill set. I think hockey is the best sport with the closest translation to the real world. Baseball, basketball, and football are selfish. You got a lot of individual. You cannot make it in hockey without being a team. And that's the business world. So these guys have some great work ethic. It's just, molding them and helping them, encourage them, and walking, hand in hand with them. You fall, I fall. We'll get through this. It's because it's, no matter what they got into, it's going to be different for us. And coming out of the military, if you're stepping into something, it's different. It's fine being. I'm okay with them being different, because I understand that, and that's the hard part. Is us. If you work for somebody else who doesn't understand where we're coming from, you're not doing this. Why are you doing this? This. That doesn't work.
And it can't, because you're trying to take a triangle and fit it into a square peg. And what sick world is that ever going to work? You have to adapt. You have to adapt. Everyone's different. You have to. Well, you don't have to. You should take the time.
Well, if you want to be successful, you have to adapt. The world's changed. Every day there's something new. And Brock and I just had this conversation the other day. To build a business and expand, you have to change too. You have to learn. You have to learn from your mistakes. Everything happens. And if you don't, you're not going to be around long.
And in terms of the hockey thing, you're right. It's not a selfish sport. I remember growing up, the kids that were selfish on the ice, they petered out quickly. And the kids that were all about the team, I mean, we were a PWB rec startup team, and we played tournaments, and we would kick the crap out of these, high level travel teams across the country, because we all just played together. Granted, it was Pee-wee, we're little kids, but even at a young age.
It starts at a young age. You knew that at a young age, and that's exactly what hockey is all about. Is forming you at a young age. This is a team. We work together. Now, go in the office. You may not like that person you got to work with, but you have to. Just I didn't like my D partner, but I have to.
Sometimes you're going to work with people that you like. Sometimes you don't like, and you have to adapt. I mean, that was a lesson my mom taught me. Collin, some days you're going to work with somebody you don't like, and as much as you hate it, take it as a good thing, as a learning experience. You're going to learn how to deal with this person. And as like a 20-year-old, I'm like, what the hell? I don't want to do this. I
You
want
know what? I'm
everything to be
20.
great.
I know what I'm doing, Mom. Leave me alone.
Yeah, leave me alone. But it's
Yep.
it's the truth.
No, 100%. Again, you don't know what path God's got laid out for you. You don't know. If you asked me 20 years ago, I'd be sitting here today, I would have told you you're out of your mind. You have no idea, what that path is and where it leads and who you know and what to, you don't never burn a bridge because you never know when that person's going to come back into your life. And, every day it's definitely a lesson for somewhere along the road.
And I guess the question from early on, because we dove in deep pretty quickly, that remains for guys like yourself, for me, and for so many others is, how do you break that mantra of that you're stupid?
I don't think I'm going to change it. I was told that for so long, which is fine, because it's allows me to talk about it. And the more that we talk about it, the more people get educated on it, have a better understanding. And then it just trickles down to understanding what kids are and who they are at a younger age. So again, you're a lot younger than I am. I went through a lot, and I didn't find out till I was 32, 33. So I don't think I'm ever going to change it, because that's been inbred in me, told me millions of times. But now that I can talk about it, I can share that. And the more we have these conversations, the more people hear it, the more people understand it. I always say you can't get to two till you get to one. And, as that train goes along, it gets further down the chain, and the younger the kids figure out, they learn differently and how they learn and what they need, the better off the whole world's going to be.
Would you say that fills your cup now, Brent? That makes your heart full, just knowing that maybe you won't be able to change certain things about your life, but knowing that you can impact others at a younger age?
100%. That's all I care about is helping people. I get more out of that than anything else. So that's why I tell it the way it is. And I'm okay with not ever changing, feeling dumb. But by saying those words, there's another kid or another parent will hear it, and we'll be able to help them.
You'll help them get into the mindset of, you're not. It's just learning differently. Everyone is smart and unique in their own way.
100%. And that's exactly it. Is you got different. Everybody's got different skills. Every single person. It's just being okay that you got your skills different. My brain works differently than so it's telling that message to kids. All right, you may not be very good at reading, right? But guess what? You're good at this, or you're good at that. And these conversations and telling the truth that I'm not going to fix it, me feeling dumb, but guess what? I can fix them before it happens. Or if I catch a kid at 10 years old, it's not going to he'll have a few scars, but nothing like 33. So that's the purpose of it.
I love it, dude. I love your story, the honesty, the rawness, and that's the idea of this podcast. Is I don't want it to be that coach speak. I know, if I'm interviewing you in 2010 when you were with the Hawks, Brent, and I'm saying, hey, Brent, you hoisted that Stanley Cup. I know you have like the communications departments and the PR departments, and I know there's so many loopholes. But if there's one thing I've really enjoyed about this, is it's a forum to just, hey, this is who I am. This is my story. This is how I'm helping. And I freaking love that, dude.
Yeah, it's you. If you asked me in 2010, the conversation would have been very different, because I wasn't okay. Today I am.
Where can people check out the Brent Sopel Foundation and everything that you're doing? Because I want to help push this forward.
Yeah, the Brent Sopel Foundation.org is the website, and my documentary is on there. It's free on YouTube. Here to Change the World. It's 25 minutes. You watch that, share it, because you never know who. I always say you might save a life, and people are like, "What do you mean?" No, that's way blowing out. You have no idea what we go through, and you have no idea who that it might touch. So again, I'm all over social media. Reach out. I always get back to people. It might take me a little longer with everything I got going on, but it's just one day at a time, one person at a time.
I appreciate you, Brent Sopel. And I have to say, this is a different looking Brent Sopel that we're used to during the NHL days, man. You got the tight haircut going on. I remember that hair, dude.
I know. Yeah. Somebody said I had to grow up. So I'm getting old. It's, I already got the gray hair. So old age is kicking in.
Hey, dude, listen, man, I got the gray and white going in here. And if someone says anything, I just say it's all that wisdom.